The more laps we pass around Father Time's racetrack, the more our responsibilities increase, and the less time we have to pursue side quests. A side quest, of course, in this case, being free time. With the limited free time we all have, we want to make sure we're making the best use of it, you know? This is especially true when it comes to video games. I'm not just talking length either, I'm talking quality of game time. Like, would you rather play a game where you're only having fun for like half the time? Or would you rather play a game where you're having fun for like 90% of the time or more? Ultimately, it comes down to respecting the player's time, and not all RPGs are made equal in that aspect. You know, long loading times, pointless fetch quests, excessive grinding, and stuff like that. That being said, I know length is still a factor for some of you with limited free time, so every game on this list will be between about 10 to 30 hours. So, with that out of the way, let's just get into it. Here's an unranked list of 8 great JRPGs that respect your time.
The light is your guide.
A dream is what keeps you going.
Now is the time to shape your story. Your fate is in your hands.
And to start off this list, we have the one and only Chrono Trigger. Alright, we might as well get this one out of the way. I knew it was coming, you knew it was coming, your mom knew it was coming. I mean, it's on the thumbnail and it's like the poster child for this topic, so yeah. I'm just gonna be honest, if this video was a top 10 list, Chrono Trigger would be topping it. I truly think it has the best pacing out of any JRPG I've ever played. Everything you do matters and has purpose, and there's really not a single segment you could cut out from this game. You visit a variety of unique locations long enough to make an impact, but not too long that they overstay their welcome. It's like they found the perfect balance. The same goes for the length of the game too. For first-time players, you can probably beat it in about 20 to 25 to maybe 30 hours tops, and that includes 100%ing the whole thing and all side quests. You're probably going to want to do all the side quests too, as not only do they give you a lot of great equipment and items, but they also give more insight into the story and characters' backgrounds. It's like a flawless example of side quests done right. Meaningful and rewarding. Back to Link though, they really found that sweet spot here. It's just long enough that it still feels like a grand adventure. If it was a little shorter, it might feel a little too quick. Overall, the pacing is just phenomenal, and nearly 3 decades later, it's still the benchmark for it. For anyone that wants to make a JRPG, Chrono Trigger should absolutely be played and studied. As far as the actual game goes, well, let's just say it's often considered to be one of, if not the best JRPG of all time, for good reason. A charming cast of characters, an engaging story about time traveling, some of the best music ever conceived in a video game. Yes, Chrono Trigger truly deserves its place in the pantheon of JRPGs. Everything it tries to do, it just does incredibly well. Like, I feel like really the only faults you can find with this game are just subjective preferences and trying to judge the game for what it's not. Even if it's not your personal favorite, I think anyone that's played a lot of RPGs can at least appreciate what it does right. Alright, I think I've done enough gushing to fill up a kid's snack compartment of his lunchbox for like a year. The easiest way to play this one these days is probably Steam, and that one does have extra side content. However, I would also argue that that side content is not really necessary. If you ask me, I think the Super Nintendo version is still the best way to play it. You got fast loading times, the original translation, which I do prefer, and the original font, which I also do prefer. No anime cutscenes here, I guess, but just watch them on YouTube. Anyway, let's move on. Coming up next, we have E6, Ark of Napishtim. Don't let that 6 scare you away. Like every other game in this long-running Falcom franchise, Ark of Napishtim is a standalone title. I will say it does have more references to previous games than your average East title, but even still, you're not playing this game for the story. The E-Series is all about the exploration, the sense of adventure, the gameplay, and the kick-ass music. On these fronts, Ark of Napishtim absolutely delivers. All in a very compact experience, I might add. You can beat the whole game in about 10 or so hours. It was actually kind of like a soft reboot for the series. It was 8 years after the last entry, so Falcom went back to the drawing board for a while. With Ark of Napishtim, they would introduce a brand new gameplay engine that they would use for the next 3 games. I'm not gonna lie, being the first iteration of it, it is the most rough around the edges, so if you want a more refined version of it, I would recommend Oath and Felghana and East Origin. Those can also be beaten in about 10 to 15 hours. They both have better dungeon design as well, and no annoying dash jump either. Alright, I'm adding this part in after the fact, but I feel like I made the gameplay sound like it's worse than it actually is. It feels great to control here. It actually feels the best out of any action RPG on this list. It would just get better later on. Doesn't mean it's bad here though. Anyway, just wanted to clarify that. So, why am I talking about Ark of Napishtim then? Well, I've talked about Felghana before in East Origin. I'm just not really a fan of the tower setting. I also feel Ark of Napishtim doesn't get talked about as much and is pretty overlooked. I think its biggest strengths are the setting, the exploration, and the music. It takes place on an island with all these lush forests, and it's just super cozy. The music is also absurdly good. It's maybe the most experimental East soundtrack I've heard. It's like a mix of jazz and techno and rock, and it's just insanely awesome. Narrowing down songs to play in this segment was not an easy task. The music just really sets the adventurous tone so well and really amps you up to explore around. Exploration itself also being pretty satisfying as you are rewarded for going off the beaten path. As far as what version to play, I would recommend Steam. The PS2 version does have voice acting, but it also doesn't have fast travel, which the Steam version does, and considering this is a video about RPGs that respect your time, I think you know the go-to answer. Whatever you do, just avoid the PSP version. Easily the worst out of them all. The next game we have on our list is Suikoden. This PS1 Konami classic started off this beloved franchise. It's also by far the shortest, which makes it my favorite to replay. It'll probably take you about 20 to maybe 25 or so hours to 100% complete. I know it's basically a prototype to Suikoden 2 as that one improved upon many aspects, but I don't know, man. I'm actually one of the few weird people that does prefer the first one. It just has better pacing overall, I think. There's a couple parts I didn't really think were necessary, and the strategy battles just move a little too slow for my liking. I actually much prefer the army battles from the original. As far as the regular battles go, these move quick, dude. Not even just for PS1 standards, even now, battles have a really brisk pace. Also, if you're overpowered, instead of running away, you can let enemies go. This lets you escape successfully every time, so you can get in and out of battles in like 5 seconds. Whenever you need a backtrack to recruit more characters, this is super nice. Oh yeah, and given there's a lot of characters to recruit, the leveling up system they implemented makes it really easy for everyone to catch up to speed. Everything about the battle system is like the definition of respecting your time. Even outside gameplay though, Suikoden's just a gem. It's got great characters, an emotional story, amazing music, and yeah, it's just good stuff, man. I've always been a big fan of the whole recruiting 108 Stars of Destiny aspect and how that plays into gradually expanding your castle. Each character you recruit will either fight with you in battle or unlock a new function at said castle. It's very rewarding to see it fill out. This and how you always play as like the leader of an army just gives the Suikoden series a really strong sense of identity. There should be a remaster of Suikoden 1 and 2 for that matter coming out later this year, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Coming up next, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna, the Golden Country. That was like 15 syllables almost, Jesus. Anyway, this is a story expansion to the original Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's actually a prequel though, so technically you don't have to play the original first. It does take away a bit of the mystery surrounding some of the characters in the original, I will say, but I'd also argue it would just get you to care about those characters more, knowing their backstory. But yeah, if you're someone who's been intimidated by this series due to how massive they are, this is the perfect entry for you. You can beat it in just under 20 hours, which is like a third or even a fourth of the length of a usual Xenoblade game. It's a nice little appetizer of what Xenoblade has to offer if you ever want to dive into a full entree. I gotta be honest, I actually prefer it over the base Xenoblade 2. The battle system is streamlined a bit, as well as the gameplay in general, and I just like the characters more. I wasn't too crazy about old Rexy boy, and personally, I enjoyed Laura more as a protagonist. The new music is also really good. It's got like this jazzy and epic feel, and every track is like 5 to 8 minutes long with tons of variation. No minute-long loops here. The MMO-style gameplay may not be for everyone, but at least the battle theme absolutely kicks ass. Overall, it's just an excellent game. Like, yeah, it doesn't have the most meat on its bones compared to all the other Xenoblade games, or any other Xeno game for that matter, but that just makes it ideal for a list like this. It's available both digitally and physically on the Switch, so yeah, if you like exploration and beautiful, unique environments, I highly recommend this one.
Lady Bridget, I'm in awe of your perfect skin. Could it be a side effect of those flames?
Unfortunately, fire-related beauty treatment hasn't really caught on. I can't imagine why.
And to start off the second half of this list, we have Soul Blazer. Soul Blazer is a tightly paced action RPG developed by Quintet for the Super Nintendo. It's the first game in their Heaven and Earth trilogy, predating Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma. It's the shortest and simplest out of these three, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it has the best pacing, as Illusion of Gaia starts off pretty slow and Terranigma is just longer in general. It's a very enjoyable 10-hour romp with no bloating or pointless fluff. It's also fairly unique too. There's a town building aspect to this game and it's pretty cool. Seeing the various towns gradually fill out little by little is very rewarding. RPGs by nature already have satisfying progression due to leveling up and getting better equipment, but add another element in there that just rewards dungeon progression even more, and you have an extremely addictive gameplay loop. It's one of those titles that once you pick it up and play it, you're gonna want to knock it out in a long weekend. The story here is honestly pretty basic and nothing to write home about, but luckily it's not really a main focal point in a game like this, and everything else makes up for it. The world building and the sense of mystery are pretty nice though, I will say. Obviously gameplay isn't as smooth or polished as something like Ark of Napishtim from earlier in this video. However, for Super Nintendo action RPG standards, it gets the job done and is executed well enough. Unfortunately, Soul Blazer has never been re-released anywhere else, so if you want to check this one out, you might have to play it any way you can. Shout out to SNES Drunk. Coming up next, we have Parasite Eve. Originally, I was going to put Kudelka here for a horror RPG type vibe, but the more I thought about it, that one does have slower, clunkier gameplay, and is just longer in general. So yeah, for the purpose of this video, I do think Parasite Eve respects your time a bit more. Do look into Kudelka though, I do want to talk about it more in the future. Anyway, Parasite Eve. This has gotta be one of the most unique RPGs on the PS1. And Prime Squaresoft is just putting out banger after banger, and this is no exception. The game takes place in New York City, where you play as a police officer trying to stop this evil entity from destroying the human race. It's actually based on a novel and was Squaresoft's first mature-rated game. This helps give it a very fresh feel in the genre. The same thing goes for the battle system. It's like a mix of turn-based and real-time, and it's just a very fun combination. That battle theme is also so good, dude. I mean, battles are already a good time, but vibing to this? Hell yeah. The OST in general is just excellent. Good mixture of bangers and ominous tracks. While Parasite Eve did release on the PS1, it technically can still be bought on the PS3 store. Yeah, the PS3 store, not the PS4 or PS5. Hey, take it up with Square. I feel like it's only a matter of time before this one gets an official remaster though. Horror-themed games are super popular right now, so they'd kinda be dumb not to. It's gonna happen eventually. Just watch. The next game we have on our list is Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. The company Alpha Dream developed this one and released it for the GBA. Really, any of the Mario RPGs could have fit here, and initially I was going to talk about Super Mario RPG as that one is the shortest and does have the best pacing, arguably too quick in the remake. However, I have talked about that one a shit ton before. I've talked about Paper Mario quite a bit too, but never the Mario & Luigi series. So, here we are. I actually haven't played any of the other Mario & Luigi games, but I have heard they're pretty good. Superstar Saga is the shortest one though at around 20 hours, so it works out. There was a remake for the 3DS that added a little bit more content, but I gotta be honest, it has a different graphical style that I just don't like as much. I think the sprites on the GBA just have more charm to them. That version is also available on Nintendo Switch Online, so yeah. Anyway, if you've played any Mario RPG before, doesn't even matter the sub-series, then you know what to expect here. Wacky characters, humorous writing, a timing element in the turn-based battle system, and yeah, all that good stuff. The biggest degree of separation here is obviously the brother dynamic and how that factors into gameplay. Like in battle, Mario and Luigi are mapped to different buttons and you can dodge certain attacks aimed at a character by pressing the correct button. There's also combination attacks in battle that, well, combine the brothers' abilities. All these mechanics give battles a lot of active engagement. The same thing goes for exploration too. The bros can interact with the environments in pretty cool ways by playing off each other. Utilizing all this, there's no boring dungeon design here, man. It's really fun. So yeah, if you want a lighthearted, not so serious RPG that still offers a good level of thinking and engagement, then I highly recommend Superstar Saga. And to finish off this list, we have Threads of Fate. Yeah, a third Squaresoft game, but what can I say, they were just firing on all cylinders back in the day. I've also barely ever talked about this one before, so it's time to right that wrong. I mean, in my defense though, I'm not the only one that's forgot about it. After its original PS1 release, it's never been re-released anywhere else. Well, unless you count the PS3, PSP, and Vita store like Parasite Eve. Apparently, it was a favorite among the Square staff, so who knows, maybe we will get a remaster one day. It's not hard to see why it was a favorite. It was a pretty big departure from what they were generally making at that time. It's an incredibly charming, light-hearted action RPG with some platforming elements and dual protagonists. Each character's playthrough takes about 10 to 15 hours. If you want to play one and just be done, that's fine. If you want to experience more though, then yeah, you got the other. They do have different play styles too. Rue has the ability to transform into various monsters that he defeats, and Mint can not only use a projectile weapon, but also magic spells. Their personalities are also quite a bit different as well. Rue is like your standard pro-tag, but Mint, well, let's just say she's a love-or-hate character. Entertaining nonetheless though. The dialogue really adds to this. Coming out late in the console's lifespan, it's got one of the best localizations on the console. The plot itself isn't bad. I wouldn't really say it's a main selling point here, but it does a fine enough job in driving the game along. It actually sets up a sequel, which unfortunately never came. Yeah, I should have included this one in our last list video about RPGs that deserved a sequel. My bad, guys. I wouldn't be talking about it here though if that was the case, so silver lining? Anyway, before ending things, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least give a shout out to the music. It's just a very underrated OST, man. Until listening to it again for this video, I kinda forgot how good it was. It makes traversing through dungeons a real joy and gives some story moments a lot more impact. But yeah, Threads of Fate. Not a perfect game, the gameplay can be a little janky at times, but the charm really carries it through. It's not for everyone, however, for the right people, it's absolutely worth experiencing. Alright, and that about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please either consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. What are some JRPGs you guys feel respect your time? There's obviously way more examples out there, so who knows? Maybe if the interest is there, we'll do a part 2 sometime. Let us know in the comments. As always, just want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, and of course an extra special shout out to our top patrons, Chris Carnaccio, Derek Drost, Jesse Spencer, Jump Rock, and Saishū. All of your support and generosity is very much appreciated. Other than that, thanks again for watching, everyone, and hope you have an awesome day. This is Corbin from Gaming Productions. Until next time.